The unseen visitor Maggie was a 26-year-old teacher who lived alone in a cozy apartment. She loved her job, spending her days teaching young kids and shaping their futures. After long hours at school, she cherished her quiet evenings. Her little apartment was her sanctuary, a place where she could relax with a cup of tea and her phone. Like many people, Maggie enjoyed scrolling through social media, especially Facebook. It was her way of keeping up with friends, sharing memories, and exploring new interests. One chilly evening in early December, Maggie was curled up on her couch, scrolling through her Facebook feed. The glow of her phone lit up her face as she smiled at pictures of her friends' holiday decorations and recipes for festive treats. That's when she noticed a new friend request from someone named Chris Turner. Curious, Maggie tapped on his profile. Chris appeared to be a normal guy in his early 30s. His profile picture showed him smiling at the top of a mountain, with a scenic view behind him. His posts were mostly about hiking, nature photography, and hanging out with friends. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Maggie didn't recognize him, but she thought maybe he was someone she had met briefly through mutual friends. After a moment of hesitation, she decided to accept the request. At first, Chris' interactions were completely harmless. He liked some of her photos, including one of her hiking at Pinewood Trails, and left a friendly comment under a picture of her dog. Maggie thought nothing of it. After all, Facebook was a place to connect with people, and Chris seemed like just another casual acquaintance. A few days later, Chris sent Maggie a private message. Hi Maggie, I hope you're doing well. I notice you're into hiking. Have you ever been to Pinewood Trails? He asked. Maggie smiled as she read the message. She enjoyed chatting about hiking and outdoor activities. Yes, it's one of my favorite spots, she replied. Their conversation continued for a while. Chris asked about her favorite trails, and Maggie shared stories about her adventures in nature. He seemed genuinely interested, and their chat ended on a friendly note. For a couple of weeks, Chris remained a friendly presence on Maggie's Facebook. He occasionally commented on her posts or sent her cheerful messages. Maggie thought he was just a nice guy who shared similar interests. But things slowly began to change. Chris started messaging Maggie more frequently. At first, his questions were casual. What do you do for work? Or have any fun plans this weekend? But soon, his messages became more personal. What time do you usually leave for work? He asked one day. Maggie felt a little uncomfortable. It seemed like an odd question, but she brushed it off and didn't reply. The next day, Chris sent another message. Do you live alone? Maggie's uneasiness grew. Why was he asking such personal questions? She didn't want to be rude, but she also didn't feel comfortable answering him. She decided to ignore his messages and hoped he'd get the hint. Instead, Chris' behavior became more persistent. He sent her long messages about his day and asked why she wasn't responding. Maggie felt uneasy every time her phone buzzed. She decided it was time to block him, but before she could, Chris sent her a message that sent chills down her spine. Nice red curtains. They match your couch, he wrote. Maggie froze. Her heart raced as she read the message again. How did Chris know what her living room looked like? She had never posted pictures of it online. Her curtains and couch were visible only to someone who had been inside her apartment, or someone who had been watching her. Maggie's hand shook as she quickly blocked Chris' account. She closed her curtains, locked her doors, and called her best friend, Emma, to come over. When Emma arrived, Maggie explained everything. Emma tried to reassure her, but Maggie couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night, she slept with her bedroom door locked and a baseball bat by her bed. She didn't feel safe in her own home. The next morning, Maggie woke up to find something even more disturbing. Outside her window, in the freshly fallen snow, were footprints. The prints led directly to her porch and stopped by her window. There were no footprints leading away. Whoever had been there had stood outside her window, watching her. Maggie's stomach turned. She immediately called the police. When the officers arrived, they inspected the footprints and confirmed that someone had been outside her apartment. They asked Maggie if she had noticed anything unusual recently. She told them about Chris Turner and showed them the messages he had sent before she blocked him. The police took her report seriously and promised to investigate, but they couldn't guarantee her safety. Feeling terrified and vulnerable, Maggie decided she couldn't stay in her apartment any longer. She packed her belongings and moved in with Emma while she searched for a new place to live. She also deactivated her Facebook account, vowing never to use social media again. Over the next few weeks, Maggie struggled to feel safe. Every shadow and sound made her jump. The police never found Chris Turner, and Maggie couldn't stop wondering who he really was and how he had found her. The experience changed her forever. She became more cautious about who she interacted with online and more protective of her personal information. The chilling encounter served as a harsh reminder of the dangers of social media. For Maggie, the unseen visitor was not just a stranger, he was a threat that disrupted her sense of security. Though she eventually found a new apartment and tried to rebuild her life, she never forgot the feeling of being watched and the fear that had crept into her once peaceful world. The doppelganger Sophia was a typical college student who loved sharing her life online. She enjoyed connecting with friends, sharing her daily experiences, and documenting her adventures on Facebook. She often posted pictures from her trips, snapshots of delicious meals, and even moments from her late-night study sessions. To her, Facebook was a fun way to stay connected with people and express herself. One evening, after a long day of classes, Sophia and her roommate Jenna were relaxing in their small dorm room. Jenna was scrolling through her phone when she suddenly paused and gave Sophia a curious look. "Sophia, is this your profile?" Jenna asked, holding up her phone. Sophia glanced over and froze. The screen showed what looked like her Facebook profile. The profile picture was hers, and the name was hers too. At first glance, it seemed like her own account. But as she looked closer, Sophia realized something was off. This account wasn't hers. Someone had created a fake profile, copying everything from her real account. Sophia took Jenna's phone and scrolled through the fake profile. Every detail was an exact copy of her real account. The photos were identical, the captions matched word for word, and even the posts from the past week had been replicated. It was like staring into a digital mirror, but it wasn't her reflection. "Who would do this?" Sophia asked, her voice filled with confusion and worry. Jenna shrugged. "It's so weird. Why would anyone go through the trouble of copying your account?" Feeling uneasy, Sophia immediately reported the fake profile to Facebook. She also posted on her real account, warning her friends and family about the imposter. Her friends quickly rallied to help, reporting the fake account as well. Within a few days, the profile was taken down. Sophia felt a sense of relief, thinking the ordeal was over. But the relief didn't last long. About a week later, another fake account appeared. This one was identical to the first, copying everything from Sophia's posts to her profile picture. However, this time, the fake profile started sending friend requests to her friends, family, and even people she barely knew. It began messaging them, pretending to be her. One evening, while Sophia and her boyfriend Liam were hanging out, Liam received a strange message on his phone. It was from the fake account. "I've been feeling so lonely. Can you come over?" The message read. Liam frowned and showed the message to Sophia. "What's this about?" he asked, confused. Sophia's eyes widened as she read the message. "That's not me. I would never say that, she said, feeling both angry and scared. The imposter was not just copying her. They were actively pretending to be her and trying to manipulate people in her life. Sophia decided it was time to take stronger action. She posted another warning on her real account, urging everyone to ignore the fake profile and report it immediately. Her friends were supportive, and many of them shared her post to spread the word. But the situation only got worse. The fake profile began posting private photos of Sophia, pictures she had never shared publicly. These were photos from her phone, ones she had only taken for herself. Seeing those photos on the fake profile made Sophia feel exposed and violated. How had the imposter gotten access to them? That's when the horrifying realization hit her. Her real account had been hacked. Sophia's sense of safety shattered. She changed her passwords and added extra security measures to her account, but the damage had already been done. The fake profile continued to torment her. Messages were being sent to her professors, classmates, and even her family members. The imposter was spreading lies, creating chaos in her life, and making it harder for her to focus on school or sleep at night. After weeks of stress and sleepless nights, Sophia decided she needed professional help. She hired a cybersecurity expert to investigate the situation. The expert analyzed her accounts, tracked the activity, and eventually traced the fake profile to an IP address in her city. The discovery was shocking. The imposter was someone Sophia had known from her past, an ex-classmate she barely remembered. The ex-classmate had developed an unhealthy obsession with Sophia and had been stalking her online for months. They had hacked into her account to gather personal information and used it to create the fake profiles. When the police got involved, the person was arrested. It was a relief to know the ordeal was over, but the experience left Sophia deeply shaken. Sophia decided to delete her Facebook account and step away from social media entirely. She realized that sharing every detail of her life online had made her vulnerable. Although she missed staying connected with her friends, she felt safer knowing her private life was truly private. Over time, Sophia began to recover from the experience. She focused on her studies, spent more time with her loved ones, and found other ways to express herself. The ordeal taught her a valuable lesson about online safety and the importance of protecting her personal information. From then on, she was more cautious about what she shared and who she trusted. The experience was a painful reminder that the internet, while a wonderful tool for connection, could also be a place where people's boundaries and privacy were violated. Sophia's story became a cautionary tale for others, encouraging them to be mindful of their digital footprints and take steps to protect themselves online. Jake was a curious and adventurous person. He loved discovering new things, meeting new people, and diving into different interests. One of his favorite pastimes was exploring Facebook groups. These groups were little corners of the internet where people with the same hobbies, ideas, or passions came together. For Jake, joining these groups was a way to find people who shared his curiosity about the world. One day, while scrolling through Facebook, Jake noticed a group called the Silent Watchers. It was private, with no description, and none of its posts were visible unless you became a member. The name alone intrigued him. Who were the Silent Watchers? Why were they silent? Jake felt compelled to find out. Without thinking too much, he clicked Request to join. To his surprise, the group's admin approved his request almost immediately. When he entered the group, he saw only one post pinned to the top of the page. It said, "Welcome to the Silent Watchers. Observe, but never comment." It was short and mysterious. Jake noticed there were thousands of members, but as he scrolled through the group's content, he saw something strange. No one interacted with the posts. There were no likes, comments, or discussions. It was eerie. Every day, someone in the group posted photos. But these weren't ordinary pictures. They were haunting images of deserted places, like abandoned hospitals with broken windows, dark forests where sunlight barely reached, and empty streets that seemed frozen in time. The photos gave Jake chills, but he couldn't look away. There was something captivating about the loneliness and mystery captured in those images. After a week of just observing, Jake decided to share something too. He remembered an abandoned warehouse he had explored last summer. It had been a thrilling experience, and he had taken some photos. He uploaded one of them to the group, thinking it fit the theme perfectly. But within minutes, he received a direct message from the group's admin. The message was brief. Do not post. Just watch. Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. The message wasn't rude, but it was unsettling. Why couldn't he post? Wasn't that what groups were for? Despite feeling uneasy, he decided to follow the rule and stayed in the group as an observer. A week later, things took a darker turn. Someone in the group posted a photo of Jake's apartment building. The caption read, "Nice view from the fourth floor." Jake's heart raced. He lived on the fourth floor. How did someone know that? He hadn't shared his address or even mentioned where he lived in the group. It felt like someone was watching him, and not in a good way. Jake immediately left the group and reported it to Facebook. He hoped that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. The next day, he received a private message from an unknown account. It contained a photo of him walking to work. The day after that, another message arrived, this time showing him shopping for groceries. The final straw came when he received a picture of himself sleeping in his bed. The terror Jake felt was indescribable. Someone was watching his every move. Terrified, Jake went to the police. He showed them the photos and explained everything that had happened. The officers took his case seriously and launched an investigation. After some time, they discovered that the Silent Watchers was a front for a group of hackers who were running a large-scale stalking operation. They had been using the group to track and intimidate people, gathering personal information to invade their lives. The police shut down the group and arrested several people involved, but the damage had already been done. Jake no longer felt safe in his apartment. Every sound, every shadow made him jump. He decided to move to a new city, hoping to leave the terrifying experience behind. He also deleted his Facebook account, vowing never to join another online group again. But even in his new home, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The experience had left a deep scar on his sense of security. The Silent Watchers may have been taken down, but their presence lingered in Jake's mind, reminding him that sometimes curiosity can lead to dark and dangerous places. Expanding on Jake's story, Jake had always been a lover of mystery. As a kid, he devoured books about unsolved crimes, ghost stories, and urban legends. He enjoyed the thrill of not knowing what was coming next. This passion for the unknown followed him into adulthood, where he found online spaces that catered to people like him. Joining Facebook groups became his way of exploring new mysteries without ever leaving his home. When he found the Silent Watchers, it seemed like just another interesting group. But as Jake scrolled through the posts, he noticed the photos weren't just eerie, they felt personal. Each picture seemed carefully chosen to evoke unease. A playground covered in fog, its swings creaking in the wind. A narrow alley lit by a single flickering streetlight. A row of empty chairs in a dusty theater. It was like the group thrived on capturing isolation and fear. At first, Jake thought the group was harmless. Maybe it was just a creative space for photographers who liked spooky themes. But the lack of interaction puzzled him. Why didn't anyone comment or react to the posts? It felt unnatural, especially in an online group with thousands of members. Still, Jake convinced himself it was all part of the group's mysterious charm. The moment Jake uploaded his photo, he felt a strange sense of accomplishment. He had contributed something to this unique community. But when the admin's message arrived, that sense of accomplishment turned into dread. The message wasn't just a warning, it felt like a command. Do not post. Just watch. Jake began to wonder if he had made a mistake by joining the group. As the days passed, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the admin's message. Who was this person? Why were they so strict about the group's rules? He started paying closer attention to the photos being posted. Some of them seemed ordinary at first glance, but Jake began noticing subtle details. A shadow that didn't match the light source. A figure in the distance, barely visible. It was as if the photos were hiding secrets, daring the viewer to look closer. The photo of his apartment building was the moment everything changed. Jake felt like his world had been turned upside down. Someone in the group knew where he lived. But how? He hadn't shared any personal information. He tried to rationalize it, telling himself it could be a coincidence. Maybe someone else in the group lived in the same building. But the caption, "Nice view from the fourth floor," made it clear this wasn't random. Leaving the group gave Jake some relief, but the private messages shattered any sense of safety he had left. Each photo was a reminder that someone was watching him. They knew his routine, his habits, even what he looked like when he slept. Jake started feeling paranoid. He checked his apartment for hidden cameras and changed his daily routines, hoping to throw off whoever was stalking him. But the fear stayed with him. The police investigation brought some answers, but also raised more questions. How had the hackers chosen their victims? What was their ultimate goal? Jake learned that the Silent Watchers had targeted dozens of people, using the group as a cover to gather information and intimidate them. The hackers were skilled at hiding their tracks, making it difficult for authorities to find them. It was only through sheer persistence that the police managed to shut them down. Even after the group was gone, Jake couldn't move on. He had always considered himself a brave and adventurous person, but this experience had shaken him to his core. Moving to a new city was supposed to be a fresh start, but Jake found himself looking over his shoulder wherever he went. He avoided social media entirely, afraid that it might lead him back into danger. Jake's story became a cautionary tale among his friends and family. They admired his resilience, but couldn't ignore the toll it had taken on him. For Jake, the lesson was clear. Curiosity is a double-edged sword. While it can lead to amazing discoveries, it can also open doors to places better left unexplored. And some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The disappearing friend Emma and Rachel had been best friends for as long as they could remember. From childhood to adulthood, they did almost everything together. They shared secrets, dreams, and lots of laughter. One of their favorite pastimes was sharing funny memes and videos on Facebook. It was their way of staying connected, especially when life got busy. Emma loved how easy it was to talk to Rachel. Whenever she was feeling down, Rachel always knew how to cheer her up. They had a bond that felt unbreakable. So when Rachel suddenly stopped responding to Emma's messages, Emma was confused and worried. At first, Emma thought Rachel might be busy. Maybe work had gotten hectic, or she needed a little space. But after a few days of silence, Emma started to feel uneasy. She sent more messages, asking if everything was okay. She commented on Rachel's posts, hoping for a reply, but nothing came back. Determined to reach her friend, Emma decided to call Rachel. She dialed her number, but the call went straight to voicemail. She left a message, trying to sound casual, even though she was starting to panic. "Hey, Rachel, it's me. Just checking in. Call me back when you can." But days passed, and Rachel never returned the call. Despite Rachel's silence, her Facebook account remained active. She was still posting updates, sharing photos, and even tagging Emma in posts. This gave Emma a small sense of relief at first. Maybe she's just super busy but still thinking of me, Emma thought. But something about the post didn't feel right. The captions on Rachel's updates seemed off. They didn't sound like the way Rachel usually wrote. The photos she shared looked strange too. They weren't the kind of pictures Rachel usually posted. Emma couldn't quite put her finger on it, but something felt wrong. Emma decided she needed to see Rachel in person. If Rachel wasn't going to reply online or answer her calls, maybe she would explain things face to face. Emma went to Rachel's apartment, hoping to find her there. When she arrived, she was met with an unpleasant surprise. The apartment was empty. There was no sign of Rachel, no furniture, no belongings, nothing. Confused, Emma knocked on the door of a neighbor to ask if they had seen Rachel. The neighbor didn't know much, but they suggested Emma talk to the landlord. Emma did just that, hoping for some answers. The landlord informed her that Rachel had moved out 2 weeks ago. She hadn't left a forwarding address or any way to contact her. Emma's heart sank. This didn't make sense. Why would Rachel move out without telling her? They were best friends. Rachel would never just disappear without a word. Something wasn't adding up. Determined to find out what was going on, Emma decided to dig deeper. She reached out to Rachel's family, hoping they might know where she was. But to Emma's surprise, Rachel's family hadn't heard from her either. They were just as confused and worried as Emma. Emma began to piece together what little information she had. Rachel had moved out without telling anyone. Her Facebook post seemed strange, and no one, not even her family, knew where she was. It was as if Rachel had vanished into thin air. One night, as Emma sat at her computer, trying to figure out what to do next, she received a notification. It was a private message from Rachel's Facebook account. Her heart leapt. Finally, a sign from her friend. She opened the message eagerly, but what she saw made her blood run cold. The message simply said, "Help me." Emma's mind raced. Was this really Rachel? Was her friend in danger? Or was this some kind of sick joke? She typed a reply as quickly as she could. "Rachel, is that you? Are you okay? Where are you?" But she got no response. Panicked, Emma decided to report Rachel's account to Facebook. She explained the situation and told them she believed the account might have been hacked. She also contacted the police, sharing everything she knew. Emma hoped they could help find Rachel and figure out what was going on. The following weeks were a blur of worry and frustration. The police launched an investigation, but progress was slow. Emma felt helpless, not knowing where her friend was or if she was safe. Every day without answers felt like an eternity. Eventually, the authorities made a discovery. Rachel's Facebook account had indeed been hacked. A stranger had taken control of it and was using it to trick Rachel's friends into scams. The posts, photos, and messages weren't from Rachel at all. It was all part of the hacker's plan to manipulate and deceive. But this revelation brought little comfort to Emma. The bigger question remained unanswered. Where was Rachel? Despite their efforts, the police couldn't find her. It was as if she had disappeared without a trace. And that haunting message, "Help me," lingered in Emma's mind. Was it really from Rachel? Or was it just another cruel trick by the hacker? Emma couldn't let it go. She continued to search for her friend, following every lead and asking everyone who might know something. But no matter how hard she tried, Rachel remained missing. Over time, Emma was forced to accept that she might never know what happened. Even years later, Emma still thinks about Rachel. She wonders if her friend is out there somewhere, waiting to be found. She keeps the memory of Rachel alive, holding on to the hope that one day she might get the answers she's been searching for. Until then, the mystery of her disappearing friend remains a painful reminder of how quickly life can change and how fragile connections can be, even between the closest of friends. The ghost profile David loved Facebook. It gave him a way to stay connected with people from his past and present. Scrolling through the updates, photos, and messages felt like a routine he couldn't do without. Over the years, had reconnected with childhood friends, old neighbors, and even a few former coworkers. One day, as he sat at his computer sipping coffee, he noticed a new friend request. The name on the request made him freeze. Sarah Collins. Sarah wasn't just anyone. She was David's ex-girlfriend, someone he had deeply loved once upon a time. But Sarah had died 3 years ago in a car accident. He remembered the day he got the news vividly. It had been a gloomy afternoon when a mutual friend called to tell him about the crash. The shock and grief had hit him hard. Even though they had broken up years before her death, Sarah had still held a special place in his heart. So, seeing her name pop up on his screen as a friend request felt like a cruel trick. This can't be real, David thought. His first reaction was anger. Who would do something so insensitive? But the profile looked legitimate. It had Sarah's old photos, posts, and even comments she had written years ago. Everything seemed untouched, as though time had stopped. David hovered over the accept and decline buttons, unsure what to do. Finally, curiosity got the better of him, and he clicked accept. Almost instantly, he received a message from the account. "I've missed you," it said. David's heart pounded. He stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. After a moment, he typed back, "Who is this?" "This isn't funny." The reply came quickly. "It's me, Sarah. Don't you remember?" David's hands shook as he read the message. He felt a strange mix of fear, confusion, and disbelief. This couldn't be Sarah. She was gone. But the way the messages were written felt familiar, too familiar. It was exactly how Sarah used to talk to him. His logical mind told him it was impossible, but his emotions were telling a different story. The conversation continued. The account began mentioning private details that only Sarah would know. It brought up their favorite song, the spot by the lake where they used to spend hours talking, and even the silly nickname she used to call him. David felt a chill run down his spine. How could anyone know these things? Desperate for answers, David decided to investigate. First, he contacted Sarah's family. They were just as shocked as he was. None of them had reactivated her account or had any idea who might have. They confirmed that her old laptop and phone had been put away shortly after her death and hadn't been touched since. Next, David reached out to a friend who worked in IT. Together, they began digging into the account. The friend discovered that the account had been accessed recently, but it was through an unfamiliar device and location. It appeared someone had hacked into Sarah's account, using her old login details. While David's friend worked on tracking the IP address, the messages from the account continued. They became stranger and more unsettling. The account started sending him messages late at night, saying things like, "I'm watching you," or "Do you still think about me?" One night, David woke up to find a new message. "Check your front porch." Nervously, he went to the door and opened it, but there was nothing there. The entire situation was beginning to take a toll on David. He started losing sleep and found it hard to focus at work. His friends noticed that he seemed distracted and tense, but he didn't want to tell them what was going on. It sounded too bizarre to explain. How could he tell people he was being haunted by messages from his dead ex-girlfriend's Facebook account? One day, the account sent him a message that stopped him in his tracks. It said, "Do you remember the letter I wrote you but never sent?" David froze. He did remember. Sarah had once told him about a letter she had written after their breakup but decided not to send. She had mentioned it in passing during one of their conversations, saying it contained everything she wanted to say but didn't have the courage to. David's heart raced as he typed back, "How do you know about that?" The account replied, "Because I wrote it. I'm Sarah." David felt like the ground beneath him was shifting. Could it really be her? He didn't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, but this was starting to feel like something beyond explanation. Still, his rational side kept telling him it had to be someone playing an elaborate and cruel trick. With his IT friend's help, David finally tracked down the location of the person using Sarah's account. It led to a small apartment in another city. Determined to confront whoever was behind this, David decided to drive there. He didn't know what he would say or do, but he needed answers. When he arrived, he knocked on the door. A young man answered, looking confused. David explained why he was there, but the man denied everything. He said he had no idea what David was talking about and had never accessed anyone's Facebook account. David left feeling frustrated and even more confused than before. That night, as he sat at home trying to make sense of everything, he received one final message from the account. "Goodbye, David. I'll always be watching." Then, just like that, the account disappeared. When he tried to search for it, it was gone, as if it had never existed. To this day, David doesn't know what really happened. Was it a hacker playing a twisted prank? Or was it something more supernatural? He'll never know for sure. But one thing is certain. He'll never accept another mysterious friend request again.